5 o'clock, we will call this meeting to order. And so we should probably get a roll call.
I keep forgetting it's all me today. Amy Barney.
Here.
Marcia Cox.
Here.
Stephanie
Here.
Julie Sassine.
This isn't on the agenda, but we will have a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silent prayer.
No, boy, that's not on there. I apologize.
We'll add that on there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1.2, call for executive session. If the situation warrants, executive session may be held during the meeting pursuant to ARS 38.431.03 A2 for a discussion or consideration of records exempt by law from public inspection, including the receipt and discussion of information or testimony that is specifically required to be maintained as confidential by state or federal law, or A3 for discussion or consultation for legal advice with the attorney or attorneys for the public body. Item 2, call to the public. Do we have any requests for call to the public?
I did not receive any.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, old business. Do I have a motion? Item 3.1, approval for October 22nd, 2020 regular and executive meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the October 22nd meetings, regular and executive meeting minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
I second.
Call for the vote.
Amy Barney.
Yes.
Marcia Cox.
Yes.
Stephanie Luares.
Yes.
Julie Sassine.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 3.2, medical claims appeal number 1. That's yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Trustees. So this is a continuation from the one of the 2 appeals that we heard at your last meeting in October. This was the one from the member who had the mammogram from an off-site provider. When the appeal was heard, you all made a decision to pend taking any action on the appeal and instructed me to work with the employee in an attempt to receive a letter from the doctor which would allow Gilsbar to take another look at that claim and likely reprocess it for payment. I did make that request, and I have never heard another word from the employee. As such, we do need to take action on this. You need to take action on this. My recommendation would be to deny based on the fact that we did not get the requested information. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any discussion? You're recused, I think.
I was going to say, if memory serves me, the mammogram was done at Havasu Regional, correct?
Right, yeah. My information, if I remember correctly, that was presented, and this was in the open meeting because the covered person allowed us to do that, was we discussed that there was information that was included in our summary plan description that if a letter was presented, that we would pay for the mammogram. And you're saying that that was never presented?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so we did request that because Gilsbar would have reconsidered
Right.
had it been provided. That's correct.
And I think I had remembered that that had occurred in the past in other situations. Yeah. Okay. Amy, do you have any questions? Stephanie?
I think at this point enough time has passed for action to be taken. We
Okay.
just need to close the book on this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think at this point that enough time has passed that we need to close the book and take some action on this.
And we have a recommendation from Gallagher to deny this.
Correct.
Do I have a motion to deny this?
I move we deny the claim due to lack of information. Follow-up.
I second.
Call for the vote?
Amy Barney,
Yes.
Marcia Cox,
Yes.
Stephanie Luaris,
Yes.
and Julie recused. Make a note of that.
So just to be clear, our yay vote is that we are denying payment of this appeal.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear. Okay. Item 3.3, medical claim appeal number 2, that's yours.
That is also mine. Thank you, Madam Chair, trustees. This is also a continuation from the medical claims appeal that was heard back in October. This was the member who presented to the local hospital for an emergency and had to be transported to Sunrise Hospital in Vegas for treatment. Patient was inpatient for 3 days. Sunrise is not in the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona network. As a result, Gilsbar paid those claims based on the summary plan document, which is using a usual, customary, and reasonable payment methodology versus obviously a discounted rate that would normally be provided if it was a network provider. And as a result of that, that allows those facilities, providers, et cetera, to balance bill the patient. In this case, that was what prompted this appeal, is this facility was balance billing the patient for a pretty good sum of money. Again, trustees delayed taking any action and instead asked that staff, myself, work with Gilsbar and or the medical management firm in an attempt to negotiate a higher payment based on some methodology that was to be determined. It was quite an undertaking. All of that information is proprietary, and so it was very difficult to find a starting point, if you will. Eventually, we did come up with we basically looked at what the Blue Cross rate would have been, what their typical discounts were for an inpatient facility charge. We went back and by we, I mean American Health Group, went back and proposed that to Sunrise, who came back and said the best they would do is 40% off billed. And they did agree that if we would pay that, there would be no balance billing to the member. That would result in additional payment to Sunrise of $18,365.06. And again, for comparison purposes, the Blue Cross discount is normally 72% off of billed in an in-network situation. However, Sunrise indicated that that was their best and final 40% off billed. So with that, basically it's your decision whether or not you want to agree to their proposed settlement or deny the claim and let the payments stand as originally processed. And I know we don't have Mike Hensley on the phone, but certainly you could, he's on standby for this next item, so we could call him if you had specific legal questions that would require executive session and or just general legal.
But as it stands, the offer from Sunrise is that if we take their best and final offer, we would be paying Sunrise an additional $18,000, but there will be no balance billing to the patient.
That's
period.
correct.
Okay.
And they're willing to execute a letter of agreement to that effect.
Okay. And Julie, you're recused because hospital was
Where the
involved.
hospital was sent
Right.
up there.
Right. Do you feel, Amy or Stephanie, that we need to get Mike on the phone at all?
I feel like I have enough information to make a decision.
Okay. I think I am too. And I think it was just a very unfortunate situation. I just, with going right into COVID and, I mean, if I remember correctly from reading everything, there was just no place to send this patient. And so I think we can probably, the three of us can make a decision. So, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve this claim.
I second that.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Amy Barney,
Yes.
Marcia Cox,
Yes.
Stephanie Luaris,
Yes.
Yes.
and Julie recused.
Thank you.
I'm going to see her afterwards, because you guys just voted on it. They balance billed me already.
Well,
Okay, and I just wanna let you know, so we have to talk about that.
Yeah, so,
Okay,
so
I'm
that's
saying you guys vote on it, say, we have to hook up to get that rectified.
yeah, so we haven't signed an agreement yet, so they've already agreed that if they approve that, they will not bill you for anything else.
Okay, I just want,
Yeah.
we have to
Yep.
talk, because, all right.
once this is
I already
finalized,
got the new invoice with the.
I get it,
the
but,
rectified charge.
this hasn't been finalized, so once
Okay.
they're notified by Jamie and her people, they'll take care of that.
Thank you. Good night. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So this one we do need to call Mike for.
Okay. Hi, Mike.
Hey, hello everyone.
How are you?
I am doing well, thank you.
We are just now getting into item, new business, item 4.1. So,
Okay.
do I have a motion to approve item 4.1? Discussion of possible action regarding continued operation of the trust?
I move we approve item 4.1.
Second.
Jamie's frantically writing so she can, she's playing triple duty here.
That's right. Amy Barney,
Yes.
Marcia Cox,
Yes.
Stephanie Luares,
Yes.
Julie Sassine.
Yes.
Okay, we are discussing the, letter that Mr. Hensley, sent to us, and, the discussion is basically, we're talking about the operation of the trust after all the claims have been paid. Mike, do you want to give a, recap of your letter that you sent and, our recommendation on what we talked about, based on your letter?
Sure. So, the letter is before you, but essentially I reviewed the trust agreement and then all applicable statutes that what might apply to see, what happens and what are the options at the point that all claims have been paid from the trust, and reviewing both the trust agreement and the statutes. As long as the trust agreement is not terminated, so it still exists, the trust still exists, then it is entitled to use those funds for employee benefits, and that can be insured or self-insured. And in my opinion, that means that based on the language of the current trust document and the statutes, that if the choice was made to continue using the funds to fund, for example, the EBT premiums, which are funding amounts where the benefits are not being provided, I didn't see that contract was a problem either under the trust agreement or by statute. However, ultimately the call on that would be of the governing board, and you would need to make sure that the trust itself is not terminated in order to do that, because if in fact the decision is to just outright terminate the trust once it's been fully wound down from current claims, the funds would have to go back to the district, and that would kind of be end of story. But it sounds like, based on all the information that I have, that the choice would continue to use those funds for benefits. And so, So basically, there had been requests on whether or not I felt the trust document needed to have language changes for that to occur, and I don't. And I again looked at the statutes, and the statutes would authorize that. So I think if one way or another, either someone from the district can recommend that, or if the trustees wanted to vote and recommend that once the claims have all been paid, but there's still remaining funds, that they wanted to recommend to the governing board that the trust remain active and those monies used for benefits, that would be an appropriate recommendation from the trustees. And if that's the case, then trustees might want to meet annually, maybe twice a year, but annually may be sufficient at that point, only to make sure that the funds, in fact, are continuing to be used for appropriate employee benefits and that they are being administered appropriately. So that's kind of the summary of the letter, and I'm happy to answer questions as well.
Yeah, and I think even if we met annually and just tied it into, timed it, and Mike Murray is here, Mike Hensley.
Okay, great.
And tied it, a couple months before you start looking at your renewals, so that you have a good idea of, funding, I think, and Jamie's going to go over where we are, as far as what's in the account now. I think it's about $3.5 million or whatever it is. But anyway, just so you have an idea what that is, I don't know that we necessarily need to even meet twice a year, but whatever that is. And as long as we have a quorum, my understanding would be that would be sufficient to do that. And we would just know that we can approve that whatever your needs are and, whatever your recommendation is to, utilize those dollars, then we'd be fine with that.
So would it be appropriate to simply just turn over the Ameriben invoice to you each month, submit that to Jamie or whoever with Gallagher, and then a check then at that point would be cut to Ameriben directly to pay for the district's medical premium for that particular month? We estimate about $500,000 happening once everyone is back fully staffed after the summer. We average about $500,000 per month in paying that invoice to our current third-party provider. So could we just say that whatever is remaining, that the trust would then pay those premiums until that run out occurs?
Yeah, if that's a Mike Hensley, I don't see any issue with that at all, Mike. So that would be appropriate if that's what the trustees are inclined to do, and the district would request that. So between the two of them, I think that would be appropriate.
So that would be paying for existing benefits, so there wouldn't be an issue there.
Correct.
And then allowing for roughly however much is remaining at the end of the wind down period. We would just show you the actual invoice from Ameriben. The trust would pay it on our behalf. And then after 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, however long that takes, at about $500,000 per month, we would just roll it out for that amount of time. That's how I could see that working out for the district's benefit and for our employees' benefit. And making sure that all of this money goes directly to us as a district and not into the NAEBT to sit there for everyone's benefit. It would actually be on our behalf making those payments.
Right, because so what you're talking about is, you're talking about the premiums that the district would be paying on behalf of the employees.
Correct.
For the district's portion.
Correct.
Right? Okay, yeah. And I mean, that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to make sure, and I'm sure the other trustees did too, is that those dollars were hard fought. We wanted to make sure that they didn't get lapped up into those NABT dollars, and
Yes.
and I mean, I think that's the idea, and the sooner we get them used for that, I mean, I don't have any objection to that at all. Do you, Amy? Or?
I don't, my only question is where are we in the probationary period with the NAEBT?
Well, we have 3 years for sure that we're locked into the NEBT unless we decide to terminate. Then we're penalized where we couldn't rejoin them for an extended period of time.
But
So
after 3 years, they could cut us, right? Or
They could.
are we pretty solid that that's not gonna happen?
Yeah, based on what this actual first annual revisit, they seem pretty happy with us being with them. So
A
I
year
would
ago,
hope.
we said 2 weeks to the, flatten the curve too, so,
Yeah.
sorry.
It's fairly unusual to
I don't
to
think- yeah.
boot a member from
Okay.
a trust unless there's some. It's oftentimes more political than anything else when
I
something
think-
like
Are
that
you getting
happens.
along with them,
I think
Mike?
I think we're contributing very well with them. Yes.
And they were looking to pick up other districts
Are you playing
too,
nice?
right?
We are. Yes. That's correct.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously I see that being able to use those dollars as a definite advantage to the district, and that's kind of the whole idea, is I don't want that sitting in some dark hole somewhere, so.
Just administratively, there are probably some things I'll have to work out in terms of how those payments will work. Since Gilsbar, I think technically is supposed to be done after a year, but it's stuff we can work out behind the scenes, so not an issue from our end either. Whatever you all end up doing, we can accommodate.
And getting that on a monthly basis, again, that's not an administrative nightmare for you or anything.
No, we can just pass it right on to Jamie.
Okay.
What we receive from Ameriben, we'll pass right on.
And Mike Hensley, you don't see any issues on getting that monthly, or having Jamie get that on a monthly basis at all, or?
No, as long as administrative can be worked out, I don't see it as any other issue from a legal standpoint. Plus, I think it is consistent with the wishes that we don't want to just dump a bunch of money into the NABT trust that doesn't directly benefit, the cost for the employees. So I think that balances both of those desires.
Yeah. Julie, you thinking along the same lines?
Yeah.
Stephanie? Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Hensley.
All right, thanks all. Have a good afternoon, or good
Appreciate it.
evening, I guess now.
Thank you. Yeah. One of you has to hang up. So the idea then is that Mr. Murray would provide you, Gallagher, Jamie, however, with a monthly copy of the Ameriben, the invoice. You would do whatever administratively you'd need to do. And then when would that become effective? When would you start doing that? Like right away? Or, well, we'd have to wait till the run out on all the claims. And then we expect that to happen by October, I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, certainly by October. Providers have 12 months to file their claims. So really, I mean, as I'm sure you've noticed in the financials, our costs are going down and down and down as we expected them to do. And so I would say certainly by October we should have any, sometimes you have some stragglers that had to be reprocessed or things like that.
Right.
But yeah, I would say by October. And certainly the trust board could agree to release a certain dollar amount if they felt like they wanted to do that. I've worked at other trusts where we've shut them down and they've said, okay, you can take $1 million now if you need it and things like that. But it sounds to me like that may not even be an issue for this particular scenario. So
Yeah, and you haven't gotten any more appeals or anything?
nothing else, no.
Okay. So I'm thinking that probably by our October meeting, we're pretty much gonna see this come to an end, don't you think? Timing-wise, will that work for you, Mr. Murray, as far as,
Yep, that will work.
okay. So I move that we take that recommendation from Mr. Murray and at least by the next board meeting that we agree to set up some kind of an arrangement and have the district provide Gallagher with the monthly invoice for the premiums so that we can start making those premiums and take care of the administrative part of it so that we can start having those dollars come out of the trust to help pay for those premiums until all the monies have been relinquished. However you want to put that in a motion. Do I
Here's
have a
what-
second?
Here's what I wrote. I wrote, move to arrange for the trust to pay the monthly NAEBT premium invoices once wind down, I can't even read my own writing, once the wind down is finished until trust funds are depleted.
Perfect.
I second that.
Call for the vote.
Amy Barney,
Yes.
Marcia Cox.
Yes.
Stephanie Luaris.
Yes.
Julie Sessing.
Yes.
Merry Christmas. Oh, my gosh. Item 4.2, approval of October 2020 to February 2021 financials.
Thank you, Madam Chair, trustees. I'm going to focus on February since it's our most recent month, but certainly all of the financial reports are here in case you have any specific questions. Just a few things to highlight. Again, you'll notice that the revenue continues to be extraordinarily minimal. That's literally just interest income that's coming in every month from those investments that are out there. Claims, again, continuing to decline. General operating, in terms of other expenses that the trust is expending, really the only things we're paying at this point are any legal fees and then run-out fees to Gills Bar. So if you recall, we paid 3 months of fees for 6 months of run-out services, and then once that 6 months ended, now we're paying any claims that they process on a per-claim basis. So that's really the only fees that you're seeing come out of the plan now outside of claims. To date, about $765,000 in claims have been paid. Some of those obviously from the all of those from the prior plan years, not some of them, all of them. This estimated incurred but not paid liability that we show here is really not a real number because the way our accountant does the financials, she doesn't account for the fact that was really like the lump sum, whatever that number was on 6/30/20 was what Mike Shunning said it was going to be.
Right.
So this is just sort of an updated count that she keeps. But basically what it's looking like is you have about $3.9 million in cash left to pay any remaining claims that come through, and then obviously anything that's left will go toward that NAEBT premiums as we just discussed.
Perfect.
Really, again, nothing really to note in terms of the claims themselves. There is one large claim outstanding from the prior plan. Again, I don't know why I'm saying it's a prior plan year. It's the only plan year that's left, which would be eligible for stop-loss reimbursement, but it was received after the reporting date. And so we're actually coordinating with NAEBT, and their stop-loss carrier is telling us that they're going to reimburse that. So we're, fingers crossed, we're working with them on that. And so I'm hoping that we can get a little bit more cash back to the trust for that as well.
Oh, good.
So I'll keep you posted on that.
Good.
Happy to answer any questions.
So we really don't see that number changing much, so.
No, I mean, I'm not aware of anything major that's out there that we don't know about. I mean, obviously, we know we're going to have this $18,000 claim that's going to get cut, but obviously, in the scheme of things, that's a blip in the radar, so.
Yeah. I think he was pretty happy about that.
I hope so.
I hope so too. I would be. Good. Okay.
And that one does require approval, Madam Chair.
I make a motion, we approve the financial statements.
I second.
Amy Barney,
Yes.
Marcia Cox.
Yes.
Stephanie Luaris.
Yes.
And Julie Sessing.
Yes.
Item 4.3, updates and announcements.
And Madam Chair, trustees, I don't have anything, so this would be the time if anybody had anything they wanted to share.
Have anything? Item 5 is motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second. I haven't seconded anything for a while.
Amy Barney,
Yes.
Marcia Cox.
Yes.
Stephanie Luaris.
Yes.
Julie Sessing.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
No, I want to stay.